We have made it to our final destination. We have just landed in Tokyo, Japan. And this was Elijah's choice for where we went, and he was super excited about being in Japan. So once we got off the plane, we went in to the train station. I guess it was connected to the airport, so it wasn't like we had to go far. We got our tickets and we made our way to the platform. I did not have these in advance. It was just something that I purchased while we were there, and it was super easy. The people understood and speak English, and it was simple, very simple. We've traveled and had to get on some trains that may have been a little bit more complicated, but once they told us, we knew what stops to get off on, so that was easy. There was a lot of walking, but thankfully we only had one bag apiece, and we're waiting. This is the train arriving, and I think from the airport to where we're going, our hotel is in Ginza. So I want to say it was probably about an hour train ride, and I opted to take the train instead of like an Uber because of the distance, and then that way while we were on the train we would be able to get and catch some of the scenery before we actually made it to our hotel. So we didn't really get to see a whole lot. It was just a lot of like houses and roads, so it wasn't anything super interesting that we saw along the way, but still just to kind of relax once we got off of the plane was good. So we did have to transfer to another train, but while we were on the train, it was very, very quiet. There is like, I guess like rules, like not to keep up a lot of noise, not on your cell phone. They have signs for it. So then once we got off the train, we were right in the vicinity of our hotel. This is in Ginza. So we were actually able to walk just like a few minutes from the train station to our hotel, which was good and very convenient. Very busy, a lot of people moving around, different things to see. And then once we made it to our hotel, they had like all of our extra things that we would need downstairs. So she was just kind of telling us to grab it. And then we made our way upstairs to our room. And when we got to our room, which I already knew ahead of time for booking it, but it's just very small, not a whole lot going on, and it wasn't very spacious, but I think they keep things pretty compact, but it was still nice. It's convenient. It was in a good area, and yeah, I think the highlight of it for sure was like that toilet. I think I have another video later in this one to kind of go over it, but it was super cool to me. I liked it. I was like, we need this in the States. We were able to again walk to a ramen place that was not that far from our hotel, and it was very good, very quick. And I was just kind of watching this lady make dumplings from scratch. She had her whole little process, so that was kind of cool to see. But then one other thing I want to know about Japan is that you don't tip. They almost take it as like an insult, and so when you finish, you pay for your meal and you just say thank you, and then you leave, and then that's enough. So just keep that as a tip if you are visiting Tokyo, Japan, or I guess anywhere in Japan. Don't give them a tip. So the next morning we get up and we are on our way to breakfast. I saw this place, and once again, TikTok does not fail me, and it was also a recommendation. I think it's called the Happy Pancake. Yes, and so you kind of go in. We were there right before they even opened, and there's a line and you have to wait for them to call you up because you go up there on like the 7th floor. And so that's them making the pancakes, and it was actually pretty quick. We didn't have to wait a long time. This was my first time trying this style of pancake, and I can honestly say that it was definitely different. Not 100% sure if I would like get it again, but it was worth trying. So after we finished, we made our way to the train station because we were on our way to our next adventure. But one thing I want to note is, so Elijah had hot chocolate at breakfast, and so he still had his cup as we're like walking through the train station. And once he was done, we're looking for a place to throw it in the trash. So they do not allow you, I guess, while you're in public. It's another thing about in Japan, I guess they do not eat in public, and so you won't find any trash cans on the street, which I didn't know at first. But when we were at the train station and there was a person, there was a trash can behind them, and I said, like, can we throw it in the trash? And he was like, no, like adamant that no. I could see the trash can, but he refused to take the trash. So we kind of just had to hold on to it until I could find somewhere. This is earlier in the morning, so the train is a little bit more crowded than when we came in on the from the airport. So when we get off the train, we are in Shibuya, and so there is this big crosswalk area where you cross all different types of directions, and so it's called Shibuya Crossing. But we are just kind of walking through. They have shops, they have different types of food, but we had just eaten breakfast, so we weren't really having anything to eat. But this is the area, and it's just very, very busy. They have, here you see everybody crossing at one time. I thought that was super cool, just for all the different directions, and you know, the rest of the traffic just stops. We did see a guy who was having a whole photo shoot in the middle, so it kind of prompted me to want to take some pictures in the middle with all the people crossing behind us. But it's just something cool to see. I guess it's like one of the highlights that people go and see. So we make our way into one of the areas that have a bunch of stores, and we are headed just to kind of check out and see what they have going on inside of the Nintendo store. And while we're there, there's a man who's like showing, I've never seen this, I forget what it was called, circle or something like that, but you know, he allowed Elijah to do a little demo. It was super fun for him. He actually did it a couple times because there wasn't anybody else who was there. So I just noticed and realized that they have a lot of different interactive things there for people to try. So that was pretty cool. We checked out the Pokemon store. It was more so, you know, just stuff to buy, nothing interactive inside of that store. So just this area just has a lot of shopping. So just seeing what they have to offer and seeing if we see anything that we hadn't seen in the States. So after we had finished kind of walking through, he wanted to go back one more time and try another game or a different demonstration. But once we finished in that shopping area, we were making our way to go to a different street, and on our way we saw these like go-karts, which are super cool and they look fun. I've seen different ones where people had on costumes, and I've seen it at nighttime as well. I did look into this, like an attraction, something for us to do. However, you do have to have a driver's license, and so it's not really for kids because it's a one-seater, so you have to be a little bit older to be able to do that. So we walked about 15 minutes so that we could get to, I guess it's Takashita Street, maybe, I don't know. So you see the street is super busy. We came here so that we could get some sweet treats. Again, saw this on TikTok and wanted to go and try it. And so here we're at the Toddy Candy Factory, and they're making this huge cotton candy, and it just, you know, something cool. It looks very good at the end, and it took the both of us to eat it. I think all of the flavors were pretty good until we got to the very end. It was pretty tart, and it's so big that after you eat cotton candy for a little bit, you're kind of over it. And so we probably ended up throwing the end of it in the trash can, but it was good and just something cool to see. And then on that same street, again, there are like just a bunch of shops, some restaurants. They had those strawberries that are covered in like a sugar glaze, but because we had just had the cotton candy, I wasn't really interested in anything else sweet at the moment. But there was a line there. But they had just, all different types of foods that you can try. Then we just ended up walking back towards our train stop. And again, it's like 15 minutes, so it really wasn't that bad. So before we got on the train, we were downstairs as like a little market. And so we were trying to find something to eat. I had kind of wanted to find some sushi, but we didn't really find anything down here in this area. So we just waited until we got back to our hotel, and then they gave us a suggestion. So we found this really cool sushi place, which was maybe like a 10-minute walk from where we were. And you see the little conveyor belt of everything going around. And so you kind of fill out a piece of paper, and then they will give you your sushi. You just pull off the plates and they add them all up at the end. So I will say that in Japan, their sushi is a lot of fresh fish versus a lot of cooked options. So most of it was relatively raw, and it didn't have too much extra stuff that I feel like in the States eat with our sushi. And I think it just kind of all depends on what kind you get. But I didn't see like a bunch of avocado or cucumbers, or celery, whatever goes into sushi sometimes. I didn't see that. More so just like the seaweed, rice, and the meat. Now, I was very, very surprised that Elijah wanted to try it. I had tried to get him to try sushi before, and he wasn't really a fan, but he was willing to try, and he tried it, and he ended up really, really loving it so much that we came back to this place for a second time. The first time we came, we were there, I guess, at a good time where we didn't have to wait super long. But the second time was later in the evening, and we ended up waiting 2 hours to even get the sushi. But he loved it just that much, so I was okay with it. I'm like, we're only here for a certain number of days, so I just let us, go ahead and eat sushi twice. Although I probably would have just tried something else. But he really did like it, so that was a cool experience. And once we finished eating, we went ahead and went back to our room and called it a night. We were still trying to get adjusted to the time difference. The next morning, we get up and we head to breakfast. Again, a recommendation that the hotel gave us. And so we went there and tried it. They have a bunch of American options, so that was good. And once we left from there, we walked back to be able to go get on the train. The train stops were all throughout, which made it very convenient to travel to different places. The entire time that we were in Japan, I don't think we ever got into a taxi or Uber. We were able to use the train station for every place. And here you see us buying train tickets. It was very simple. I mean, it's in Japanese and also in English, so it made it very easy. You just have to kind of know where you are going, and you just put that in. It's super simple process. Put one for an adult and a child, and you get your tickets, put it in, and then it'll let you out. So here we are. I forgot the name of this city, but we are here because we are headed to go to the temple. And so when we got here, I wanted to be dressed in traditional clothing. So we went to this kimono rental place, and it was very, very good experience. I wish I could have recorded all of it, but once I picked out the fabric or the material that I wanted and we went upstairs, you see, kind of going upstairs in this room, she did not allow me to film anymore. But this is me. Once I'm finished and done, they put the whole thing on for you. The shoes, oh my goodness, were so uncomfortable. I'm not a big fan of like shoes between your toes, and they were a little too small. So I just, bear with it until we got and I was able to take some pictures. And so I'm not sure how they walk around like that all day because it was very uncomfortable and it was very warm. So I had a lot of clothes on up under there, so I was kind of sweating. While we are walking through, there's like a little area where you can buy souvenirs. You saw a lot of children there, and I asked one of the ladies and she just said that they were there for like a field trip. So this is the temple. They have different areas where you can pray. They have different areas where you can, I think they were making like a fortune area. I think that's what this is. There was different areas with outside the temple and inside of it. And so it was just, an experience to take in and just, yeah, there it is, the fortunes. And I forget what they were doing right here, but this was another area outside of the temple. And then inside, of course, there were just a lot of people praying. And so we just kind of observed and took in everything that they had there, took some pictures, and then we left from this area. It was a very, very large temple. It was not as quiet as I would have expected it to be, but it was still, you could just tell that once they got all the way inside, people were respectful and weren't making a whole bunch of noise, but it was still a little bit louder than I thought it would have been. You see all the different schools that are there. There were a bunch, and we saw a lot of them when we were actually on the train on our way there. So I figured we would run into a lot of people who were on field trips. And here we're just making our way back to where I rented this from so that I could return it. I want to say you have it for a couple of hours, but once we kind of walked, I was kind of over it and I wanted to get out of it because it was so hot. Like, there's so many layers up under there. I was slightly uncomfortable, especially with the shoes. So once we finished walking, we changed our clothes and we made our way to go to the Ninja Museum. And it was pretty cool. You have to make a reservation just basically for the time slot that you're going to go to. And so once you head on in, you walk upstairs and they have different areas for you to be able to take pictures. They have actual samurai, slash ninja attire, and you put it on. It's pretty heavy, but they help you, and all of the people were really kind and helped us take a bunch of pictures. We were with a group of people, and so once everybody kind of finished, then we went ahead and went to our next section. And as you can see, Elijah's really excited about being able to have this stuff on. It was heavier than I thought it was going to be, actually, but it was cool for us to get some good optics. And so they were, again, like I said, kind enough to take some video of us. Though getting those knives out was kind of difficult, and then he's kind of like prompting us to have like a little sword fight, and then Elijah really enjoyed that part. It was fun. But once you go past that room and that area, then they took us to kind of learn some history about how the samurai originated, and we could see like the progression of the swords and also the clothing that they wore. So that was interesting just to kind of see all of it and have someone who was helping us along the way give us some information about what we were looking at. And then the last part, we went into a room so that we could learn about more of their weapons that they use. And you see along the wall they have all of the different targets, so we were able to throw the stars, and you see Elijah got it right in the center the very first time. Me, on the other hand, I hit it and it fell on the ground. All 3 times that we had to try. But they had like a little competition that whoever was able to get it, we all vote, and then there was a winner. But I just, for the life of me, could not get it on the wall. And then once we left from there, we just went ahead and went back to our hotel. Now, earlier in the video, I was talking about this toilet. As you can see, there are all these different functions and features that they have. One, the seat in there was heated, and so it was just really cool. I'm like, they have really high-tech toilets that we do not have. But that was pretty much the end of our trip, and then we made our way back home. So until next time on our adventures, bye.